Hey, everybody. Welcome to the show. This is Brave New Work, a podcast about reinventing our organizations and the search for a more adaptive and human way of working. I'm Aaron Dignan and joined, as always, by Rodney Evans.
What a week, everybody.
Here it is. On today's continuation of our Ready for Anything series, we're going to talk about the role purpose will play in this transition. So if for those of you that are familiar with the OS Canvas, we're going to walk our way through it. And today is purpose. But before that, perhaps a quick rapid check-in round.
Yes, let's do that thing to get here and get present. I've been hearing a lot of really heartwarming stories out there on the internet lands about this moment. And so I wanted to ask you, what is something that has brought you some delight amid the chaos of this moment?
I mean, I guess two things. One, it's been, fun to be with family more, which I've enjoyed, and just see things you don't normally see when you're at work. And two, there's a great Twitter thread going around of all the ecosystems and biospheres that are coming back to life because we're not being humans. Dolphins swimming in the harbor, just stuff where you're just like, whoa, the canals in Venice are clear for the first time in, 50 years. So that kind of thing is, I'm not sure that all of it's true, but if even half of it's true, it's amazing.
We'll take it.
What about you?
For me, my yoga teacher, whose name is Mira Shani, started putting classes up on YouTube. And it just is it's so helpful. It's so helpful, but also she's doing them at the moment in her backyard. So there's a lot of bird song. I just finished a class this morning before we got on to record. And I was just like, oh, this is a much needed break from the news and the work that doesn't stop and everything else.
Totally.
So with that said, let's roll.
Today's topic is purpose, as we said, but I think before we get into that, I want to do a very quick PSA for all the leaders out there, and that is to find an application that'll let you record yourself and share a message with the team that says, hey, normally it would take years to transition to a new way of working and to have the trust and connection and membership and norms established that allow that to happen and allow that to thrive. And we don't have that time and that luxury. And so we're all going to act as if. I'm going to act as if we have total trust and you can do this and we can dynamically organize and be decentralized and it's all going to work out. And you're going to act as if I'm not looking for a way to lay you off or screw you or catch you or what have you. And we're going to all pretend that we're really good at this. I actually think it's super important in a moment of rapid transition to just pretend like it's already true. And so if we can do that, if we can get that message out there and then jump into some of these new mindsets and practices, I think we'll just be more successful because humans are incredible, imagination machines. And so let's all imagine that we're really good at this, even though we're going to make mistakes. And let's all imagine that we're all great, good actors in the system trying to do our best.
And importantly, for a lot of the leaders I know who don't know what to say right now, that's a really great thing to say. So go say that.
Good place to start.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's dig in on this. Can you just say a little bit about why you think purpose is important right now? Why not start with whether to use Zoom or WebEx?
Yeah. So funnily, when we talked last night about what field we were going to start with, you suggested this. And I was like, no, we should start with authority or a strategy or something that is a burning platform. But after 30 seconds of discussing it, I realized that I agreed with you. That happens a lot. I like to start with no. Anyway. So it's really easy in the need to triage a bunch of logistical and tactical things to skip right to working agreements, tool stack, accountabilities, triaging who's going to do what and how we're going to make sure and visibility and all of that stuff. But if we don't take a step back to ask what that is in service of, it's really difficult to prioritize. And basically, most teams and organizations suck at prioritizing anyway in the best of circumstances and should be using purpose as a way to filter activity and make smart decisions about priorities. But in this moment where we don't have the luxury of sort of arguing about it in sense making in a more spacious way, we really need a shortcut and a heuristic to say, is this important or is this not important in the absence of being able to talk about it ad nauseum for the next month with my team? So we want to make sure it's funny because I had a weird reaction to this when you said it that was like, oh, like that's like the least important thing. That's just like soft. But like it's not. Actually, we really need to have a time limited, super clear, super tight reason for existing right now that helps us stay organized.
Yes, totally. I think the normal protocol in most management environments is sheep herding around
Right.
purpose.
Yep.
And so it's basically like all the sheep, the whole flock is just like running around trying to get out. And the sheepdogs are just like continually driving us back to purpose. And that is fine, although kind of not very impressive. In an environment where we're all together every day and we can do the sense making you were talking about, and we're going to run into each other and have these serendipitous collisions. But it's really not good if we're spread out and decentralized. It's just not effective. And so that's why everybody's like, well, how can I look over everyone's shoulder? How can I be a sheepdog in this moment where everyone's going to be at home and on Zoom and with their kids? And the answer is you can't. And so the solution for that is purpose. Instead of that, you need to have like a dinner bell that is calling, the sheep in and calling the people to purpose. And maybe that's, maybe that's not the right metaphor, but I just think it's true. Like we need a flag. We need a place to run to. And what that allows us to do then is be in service of that in every decision, in every moment, in every context, and also have a benchmark for like, are we doing it in the moment, and how does that kind of play out? So I think we need purpose, not just for the organization. I mean, obviously this hasn't changed the corporation's purpose much, probably, although we can talk about that, but it definitely it's really critical at the function level, at the team level, at the unit level, and certainly at the role level. Like, what is my role's purpose in this moment?
Let's talk a little bit about the fractal nature, because I find when we do chartering work with teams who haven't done that kind of work before, most people out there in the world have not been asked what the purpose of their role is specifically. So maybe we just talk a little bit about what we see at the org level, what we see at the team level, and then what we see at the role level, and how those things sort of play together.
First of all, at the top of the house, or at the center of the peach, depending on how you organize, the purpose is meant to be this long-term dent in the universe kind of idea, and in many cases, an idea that can kind of never be done, never be fully realized, that we can pursue for decades or longer. So I think that's the usual suspects there. And if you haven't done that work, this is a good time to just get clear on like, why do we exist? Because we might not exist after this. And how do we reorient around that? I also think it's totally acceptable if you're a small business, if you're a startup, if you're a medium-sized business, to, in this moment, redirect purpose a little bit to be very contextual. And so you might be saying, look, we're a restaurant. Our purpose for the next 30 days is not to go out of business. And so everybody's eyes on that. And we'll just figure out, like, what is that going to take? And everybody's going to get dug in and focus on things we can do tactically to prevent bankruptcy, et cetera. If you're a business that has the potential to help in the crisis, the purpose might reorient to like, our job is going to be to try to get a test out, to try to get, an antibody test out. And that's going to supersede everything else. So I think it's okay to do a time limited organizational purpose in this moment.
And I just want to say about that on the org level, if you think about the implications of that, if there's a restaurant that shifts for this moment from, make wonderful farm to table food to nourish our community, to something like stay open and keep all of our employees, the decisions that you're making about what you're doing in this moment are very, very different. So now, if that's what we have our eye on, we're possibly spinning up different kinds of business models. We're thinking about how we're going to compensate. We're looking at where we're cutting costs. We're looking at different kinds of flex working. It's a whole different mindset and lens on the problem to say, right now, this is the reason we exist. The reason we exist is to keep these people employed so that they don't go bankrupt. That's a very different purpose, exactly, and it should drive, if you're doing it right, it should drive different decisions.
Absolutely. And then coming out of this moment, it's possible then to sort of recenter on the bigger picture stuff when we have a bigger picture that we can believe in, that we can even imagine. And then, for the units and teams and functions and all that, I think purpose is really just, it's a fractal portion of that same assignment. So it might be that our goal is to manage cash if we're in finance, or to kind of stem the tide. It might be that our purpose is to have 100%, customer service uptime or response rate. All those things I think still stand, but just in service of what? So I think it's worth reevaluating that.
And at the team level, it's really important for the team to be thinking critically right now about what specifically you are contributing to the organization. Like, why do you exist? When I do team charting with my own teams, like my own transformation teams, we start with the question, what is the point of us even? Because it's just an easy way to be like, if right now we cannot easily answer that question, let's figure out what we could be doing in this moment that actually is the point of us even.
And then at the individual level, at the role level, I think perhaps most critically, just getting clear about the roles we're playing right now, and then what those roles are meant to do. And even if you have nothing else, just saying like, all right, I'm going to wear these 3 hats during this moment, and these 3 hats each have one sentence written on the front. And that's my purpose, right? And so my purpose as marketer is going to be to just like add demand at the top of the funnel. And my purpose as, brand ambassador is going to be to like try to deepen connections and humanize the brand right now. Like whatever it is, I think, you can define it for yourself. It should be an outcome. It should be a thing that's true when you're done doing the work, or that you're always sort of perpetually trying to make true. And it should help you figure out like, am I doing it or not? And that is going to be the big sort of filter between the questions of like, are you still doing your job? How many hours is enough? All those things should be answered by like, well, do I fundamentally feel like I'm fulfilling this promise? And if I'm doing, if I'm doing the best version of that I can, given the circumstances, then I think I can sleep pretty well at night.
Yeah.
And sort of takes the pressure off.
And 2 things I think that are interesting about that right now. One is at the role level in particular, that's probably going to look really different. So easy example for me is something like hiring. Normally, if you have a talent acquisition hat on, it's about, time to fill or cost per hire or whatever. Right now, what your purpose might be is keeping a bench of candidates warm and ready and in communication so we're ready when things return to normal. That's one way to think about role purpose. The really varsity play here that I'm starting to see in some of my clients is a dual lens on role purpose right now, one of which is about keeping things running for customers and keeping continuity, et cetera. And the other is actually about proving these new ways of working. So what's interesting is I have roles and teams that I'm working with in my client who are like, actually one of our big contributions to the organization right now is showing the organization what's possible in terms of new ways of working, which of course, I mean, my heart like explodes when they say these things to me, but it is an interesting opportunity for those of you who are like, well, my job is different or it's boring or it's lessened or whatever. There's another meta play here that is like, maybe your role is to figure stuff out right now.
Right. And to be a model.
Yeah. A lab and a model.
So let's talk a little bit about the practical task of authoring a purpose. So let's say maybe it's been vague or it's been underdeveloped or now you need to change it in order to make it through this. How do you do that?
Get your team together on a Zoom call with some kind of multiplayer technology and start drafting. I'm going to start with what I don't want to see in your purpose statement. I don't want to see anything that looks like a mission statement that could be applied to any organization on earth and is just a strung together list of inspirational words, nor do I want to see a cornucopia of corporate jargon where you're like, we will align the synergies to maximize shareholder value. None of that goes in your purpose statement. Get it out of your mind right now.
Especially right now.
Let's use this moment to practice speaking like the human beings we are and writing the way that we actually talk to each other. So what I want to see in a purpose is something that is 3 sentences or less, ideally 20 words or less. I want it to be very authentic to your team and very specific. So if I am a new employee and I'm joining on Monday, which right in this moment seems like hilarious to me.
That's a rough trade, yeah.
Yeah, good luck to all of you who are doing that. I want to be able to read my team's purpose and go, okay, this feels unique to them. It tells me what I actually am here to do and what the value is of our group existing in this organization.
Mm-hmm,
What would you
mm-hmm.
add to that?
Well, I think I think those are great starting points. One thing that I think is always interesting is people want to be aspirational at every level of the fractal, and sometimes you don't need to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it's okay to accept that, like, yeah, the ambition of the firm or of the unit might be quite aspirational, and the ambition of our team or this role might still be, inspiring, but doesn't have to be so flowery, right? It can be quite literally like the growth team's job is to bring amazing opportunities in.
Sure.
And just like, that's it, right? And so that is a little bit aspirational to me as someone that likes to sell, but it's not, we're not talking about changing the world in every single context. So I think just being really clear about what do we actually do. And I find that when I kind of play the game of like, not exactly 5 whys, but play the game of like, wait a second, but what's the outcome? What's the output of what you're doing? And people will say something, and I'm like, no, that's more of an activity. That's where the juice really starts to come out, because folks want to go to activity. Like, our job is to produce the P&Ls. No, it's not, right? Like, why do we need them?
Yes.
Right? Well, we need them so that we have financial insight so we can steer and navigate. Oh, okay. That starts to feel more like a purpose, right? To give the organization the information it needs to steer financially. Okay, cool. Now what do we do to do that? Well, we might do a P&L, but we might also do an AMA meeting. We might also do an infographic. We might also create software. Like, there's a million things we could do now. And so I think a good purpose is specific, to your point, and authentic. It's also grounded in reality. And the more it's about an outcome, the more easily you'll be able to be creative about how you pursue it.
And along those lines, I don't think it hurts at the team level to have something that feels really vivid and maybe even funny, as long as it is outcome oriented and it's true. I worked with a legal team a couple of years ago, and I don't remember exactly verbatim what they ended up with, but it was something along the lines of kick ass and stay out of jail. And I was just like, you guys, you're the best, like never pay. Yeah. Like, it was stuff like that made it into their purpose. And truly it was very outcome oriented. And it was something that really coalesced the team very clearly, because it wasn't like, we will aim to mitigate risk and educate the organ. They were just like, nope, we never pay. Like, it was something like that.
I love that.
But it was great because it was funny and it was them and it was authentic and everybody knew what it meant. And it was outcome oriented, not activity oriented. So it was very operable.
I feel like in this moment, a dash of humor goes a long way.
Sure does. It sure does.
So that's awesome. All right. So one last little surface area here to hit. Obviously, these are pretty quick episodes, so we're not going to give you the full, book that could be written about each area of the canvas. But another quick thought about purpose is that when it comes to metrics, goals, quarterly objectives, OKRs, all that kind of stuff, there's going to be an interplay here. And I've seen people on Twitter being like, so are all the OKRs off now? Like, we're off the hook, right? Because the economy's crashing. I think it's valid to go back and look at that once you have this purpose work done and say, well, what does that mean for our quarterly objectives? Yes. What does that mean for our goals? And we'll talk more about that in the strategy episode of this series. So we'll dig into a little bit more about objective setting and goal setting and how that connects to strategy. But I do think it originates in purpose. And if you have an OKR that is oblivious to your updated or refined or focused purpose, that's got to go. So let's start by, I think, maybe wiping the slate clean on all that stuff and just orienting to purpose and saying, like, I know we had a bunch of numbers on a wall somewhere. I know we had a bunch of words written. Let's put all that aside for a second. The purpose right now is X. So how do we serve that? And let's just live in that space for a week or two. And then we can, deepen the understanding of what that means tactically and in the short term.
Which incidentally is a really good practice when you're not in the middle of a global pandemic. I am going in 20 minutes to do a quarterly strategy session with my client that is going to be about retrospecting the first quarter and adjusting outcomes based on what has happened. It has been scheduled since January. It has nothing to do with what's going on right now. But I'm imagining the adjustments might be a bit more significant than they would have been if we had done this another time. So these are just good routines and practices and habits to be in.
And that's a great place to end for today because it hits on the theme of this whole series, which is doing the right thing to be adaptive and human is going to help in this moment, and it's going to help every other moment hence, right? So like the idea that, doing regular steering, regular retrospecting, and adapting rather than committing to things forever in advance, guess what? Turns out to be really good practice.
Yeah.
Because you're still keeping that meeting and you're still going to get a ton of value out of it, and even more value in this moment that's, chaotic. So I'm pretty excited about that. Thanks for being here with me this morning.
Good times.
Quick tip of the hat to Taylor Marvin for making us sound good. Brave New Work is produced by The Ready, where we help organizations around the world change the way they work. You can get in touch with us by emailing podcast@theready.com. Tell us your stories. Tell us what brightened your week up a little bit in the midst of all this, chaos and fragility. We'd love to hear that. Give us a review if you have a chance. Share the episode with a friend. If you have a chance, this series might be a good, gift for a fellow leader or manager who's panicking a little bit in this moment. And as for you, thanks for listening. Now go change something.